Jagat Karanam Karanajnanarupam Suradim Sukhadim Gunesham Ganesham Jagadvyapinam Vishwavandyam Suresham Parabrahmarupam Ganesham Bhajema Parabrahmarupam Ganesham Bhajema Parabrahmarupam Ganesham Bhajema Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om. Greetings of Maha Shivaratri to all our viewers. Namaste. Welcome, we team Param Vedanta welcome you all to this special edition on Shivaratri. Maha Shivaratri is the most important of 12 Masa Shivaratris that is celebrated on every Chaturdashi of Krishna Paksha. That and the Maha Shivaratri is one of the important ones of that, and it falls in the month of Magha. Now we get a story in the Puranas in which Shiva is considered to be ultimate and infinite deity. In that story, Lord Vishnu and Brahma wanted to find out the dimensions of Lord Shiva. So, Brahmaji goes up taking a bird form, trying to find the head, and Vishnuji goes down taking a boar form, trying to find the feet. Both of them fail miserably. That's when Lord Shiva appears in the form of Linga and opens to a human form called Linga Udbhava Murti. This brings us to appreciate the limitless form of the Lord, Ananta Rupaha, which he revealed to both Brahma and Vishnu. In one version, this day happened to be the most sacred and is celebrated as Shivaratri, an auspicious day where Lord Shiva pointed out that he is infinite. Next slide, please. Shiva in Sanskrit also means auspicious. On Shivaratri night, the expression that repeatedly appears is Namaha. Namaha, Namaskaram, which is Namaskaram means to surrender. What do we surrender? Surrendering our will or individuality or our ego. But how do we do this? It has to take place in two stages. Next slide, please. Accepting to follow the teachings of Lord every single day of our life happens to be the first stage. The teachings available to us are in the form of Vedas and Dharma Shastra. It prescribes the do's and don'ts, are also called as Vidhi and Nisheda rationally. Satyam Vada, Dharmam Chara. Satyanna Pramaditavyam. By uttering the word Namaha, we promise the Lord that hereafterwards our lives will be governed by Shastra. Karyam, Akaryam, Vachyam and Avachyam, Chintyam and Achintyam at physical, verbal and mental levels. Before surrendering to Lord, my life was governed by Raga and Dvesha, which means likes and dislikes. After doing Namaskara, I am taking away my ego, my individuality and my free will away from Raga and Dvesha and surrendering that at Bhagavan's will, which is Shastra. So, surrender and change the direction of mind from Raga Dvesha to Vidhi Nisheda. And the next stage happens to be surrendering of the free will itself, which we see in the next slide. In this stage, we have to look beyond Vidhi Nisheda as well, beyond the Kartritvam, the very own individuality. Once the person looks beyond, only Lord's existence will be evident by taking away I. Shantam Shivam Advaitam Chaturdam Manyante Sa Atma Sa Vigneyaha Idam Sarvam Yadyatma. That Atma alone exists. There is no Aham, Idam, Tvam, Saha or anything. The next slide. So what do we do? In the first Namaskara, I live according to the will of the Lord. The second Namaskara, I merge or disappear, leaving behind the Lord alone. This is the message of Swami Paramarthananda in the lieu of Moksha Prapti or Brahma Prapti or Ishvara Prapti on this auspicious Shivaratri for all the seekers who worship Lord Shiva for the sake of attaining moksha. With his blessings, seeking his blessings on this auspicious day, let us start our first section. Let's begin with the chanting of Shiva Sankalpa Suktam. Shiva Sankalpa Suktam is a powerful Sanskrit hymn that invokes the blessings of Lord Shiva. The Suktam, composed by sage Vasishta, is a beautiful expression of devotion, surrender, and the desire to align one's thoughts, words, and actions with the divine will of Lord Shiva. To chant this, we have with us Sri Venkatakrishna Ranjit Sharma, who has been studying Krishna Yajurveda Mula, Yajusha Purva Prayoga, and other important topics under the able guidance of Veda Brahma Sri Srikant Sharma, who is his father and a great Sanskrit scholar. He is also pursuing his bachelor's degree in physiotherapy from Acharya Health Institutions. Welcome, Sri Ranjit Sharma. Over to you, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Gurum Ganapatim Vishnum Bhaskaram Shivamachyutam Brahmanam Giridam Lakshmim Vanim Vande Vibhuye Om Yajjagrato Doramudaitu Sarvantatu Suptasya Tathaiveti Durangaman Jyotishan Jyotirekantan me Manah Shiva Sankalpamastu Ena Karmaanyapaso Manishino Yagne Krinvanti Vidatheshu Dhiraah Yadapurvam Yakshumantam Prajanantan me Manah Shiva Sankalpamastu Yat Pragnanamuttacheto Dhritischa Jyotirantaramrutam Prajasu Yasmannarate kinchana karma kriyate tanme manah shiva sankalpamastu enedam bhutam bhuvanam bhavishyat parigrihetam amritena sarvam ena yagnastrayate saptahota tanme manah shiva sankalpamastu Yasmin rachasa maya jogum shri yasmin pratishtha rashana bhavibhara Yasmiggaschitagum sarvamotam prajanantan me manah shiva sankalpamastu Susharathirashvani vayam manushyan me niyute pashubhirvajinivan Ritpravishtham yadacharam yavishtantan me manah shiva sankalpamastu Yadatra shashtham trishatagum suviryam yagnasya guhyannavanamavayyam Dasha panchatrigum shatam yat parantan me manah shiva sankalpamastu Yajjagrato duramudaitu devantadu suptasya tathaiveti Durangaman jyotishan jyotirekantan me manah shiva sankalpamastu Enadyof prithvi chantarikshan cha ye parpatah pradisho dishascha Enedam jagadvyaptam prajanantan me manah shiva sankalpamastu Emano hridayam ye cha devaye divya apo ye surya rashmihi Te shrotre chakshushi sancharantan tan me manah shiva sankalpamastu Achintyan cha prameyan cha व्यक्ताव्यक्तपरं च यत् सूक्ष्मात् सूक्ष्मतरं ज्ञेयं तन्मे मनः शिव संकल्पमस्तु एका च दशशतं च सहस्रं चायुतं च नियुतं च प्रयुतं चार्बुदं च निर्बुदं च समुद्रश्च मध्यं चान्तश्च परार्धश्च तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु ये पञ्च पञ्चादशशतगुं सहस्रमयुतन्यर्बुदं च ते अग्निचित्तेष्टकास्तागुं शरीरं तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु वेदाहमेतं पुरुषं महान्तमादित्यवर्णं तमसः परस्तात् यस्य योनिं परिपश्यन्ति धीरास्तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु यस्यैतन्धीराः पुनन्ति कवयो ब्रह्माणमेतन्त्वा वृणुतमिन्दुम् स्थावरं जङ्गमं द्यौराकाशं तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु परात् परतरं चैव यत्पराच्चैव यत्परात् परतो ज्ञेयं तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु परात् परतरं ब्रह्म तत्परात् परतो हरिः तत्परात् परतो धीशं तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु या वेदादिषु गायत्री सर्वव्यापी महेश्वरी ऋग्यजुः सामाथर्वैश्च तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु यो वै देवं महादेवं प्रयतः प्रणतः शुचिः यः सर्वे सर्ववेदैश्च तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु प्रयतः प्रण ओङ्कारं प्रणवं पुरुषोत्तमम् ओङ्कारं प्रणवात्मानं तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु योऽसौ सर्वेषु वेदेषु पठ्यते ह्यज ईश्वरः अकायो निर्गुणो ह्याता तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु गोभिर्दृष्टं धनेन ह्यायुषा च बलेन च प्रजया पशुभिः पुष्कराक्षं तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु कैलासशिखरे रम्ये शङ्करस्य शिवालये देवतास्तत्र मोदन्ति तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु विश्वतश्चक्षुरुत विश्वतो मुखो विश्वतो हस्त उत विश्वतस्पात् सम्बाहुभ्यान्नमति सम्पतत्रैर्द्या वा पृथिवी जनयन् देव एकः तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु चतुरो वेदानधीयेत सर्वशास्त्रमयं विदुः इतिहासपुराणानां तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु मानो महान्तमुत मानो अर्भकं मान उक्षन्तमुत मान उक्षितम् मानो वधीः पितरं मोत मातरं प्रिया मानस्तनुवो रुद्ररीरिषस्तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु मानस्तोके तनये मान आयुषि मानो गोषु मानो अश्वेषु रीरिषः वीरान् मानो रुद्रभामितो वधीर्हविष्मन्तो नमसा विधेमते तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु अर्तगुं सत्यं परं ब्रह्म पुरुषं कृष्णपिङ्गलम् ऊर्ध्वरेतं विरूपाक्षं विश्वरूपाय वै नमो नमस्तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु कद्रुद्राय प्रचेतसे मेढुष्टमाय तव्यसे वोचे मशन्तमगुं हृदे सर्वो ह्येष रुद्रस्तस्मै रुद्राय नमो अस्तु तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु ब्रह्मजज्ञानं प्रथमं पुरस्ताद्विसीमतः सुरुचो वेन आवह स बुध्निया उपमा अस्य विष्ठा सतश्च योनिमसतश्च विवह तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु यः प्राणतो निमिषतो महित्वैक इद्राजा जगतो बभूव य ईशे अस्य द्विपदश्चतुष्पदः कस्मै देवाय हविषा विधेम तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु य आत्मदा बलदा यस्य विश्व उपासते प्रशिषं यस्य देवाः यस्य छायामृतं यस्य मृत्युः कस्मै देवाय हविषा विधेम तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु यो रुद्रो अग्नौ यो अप्सु य ओषधीषु यो रुद्रो विश्वा भुवना विवेश तस्मै रुद्राय नमो अस्तु तन्मे मनः शिव सङ्कल्पमस्तु गन्धद्वारान् दुराधर्षान् नित्यपुष्टाङ्करीषिणीं ईश्वरीकुं सर्वभूतानां तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु य इदगुं शिवसङ्कल्पगुं सदा ध्यायन्ति ब्राह्मणाः ते परं मोक्षं गमिष्यन्ति तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु ईशानः सर्वविद्यानामीश्वरः सर्वभूतानां ब्रह्माधिपतिर्ब्रह्मणोऽधिपतिर्ब्रह्मा शिवो मे अस्तु सदा शिवो हरिः ओम. Thank you. Mahadeva Mahadeva.
Thank you, Ranjit. Thank you, Ranjit. It is a very divine chanting. Thank you so much for this divine chanting of this devotional suktam. Your soulful chanting has brought peace and tranquility to all the listeners. May Lord Shiva's blessings be always upon you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahadeva.
Next, we have with us Dr. Archana Kulkarni, who is an accomplished Hindustani classical and light music vocalist. She is an All India Radio A-grade artist who has the distinction of singing with Sri S.P. Balasubramaniam in one of his very first Yedetumbi Haduvenu programs, and also has recorded cassettes with one of the greatest legends, Sri P.B. Srinivas. She frequently features on Akashvani and Doordarshan Chandana in their morning programs. She is here to render the song called Banalli Ninninda Suryodaya. It's a popular Kannada movie song and it's from the movie Neenu Nakkare Halu Sakkare, music by Rajan Nagendra for the Sahitya of Mr. Hamsaleka, and it's sung by our favorite Srimati K.S. Chitra. And just a line about Banalli Ninninda Suryodaya. Everything in this world is the glory of the God. Banali Ninninda Suryodaya. Suryodaya itself is the light, and Ninninda, the light behind the light, is our Mahadeva. Over to you, Dr. Archana.
Sharano Sharanenuve Sharanenuve O Prabhuve Sharanenuve Banalli ninninda Suryodaya ಬಾಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಿನ್ನಿಂದ ಅರುಣೋದಯ ಬಾನಲ್ಲಿ ನಿನ್ನಿಂದ ಚಂದ್ರೋದಯ ಆನಂದ ನಿನ್ನಿಂದ ಕರುಣಾಮಯ ಮೋಡಮಳ್ಳಿಯಾಗಲು ನೀರು ಭುವಿ ಸೇರಲು ಭೂಮಿ ಹಸಿರಾಗಲು ಲೋಕ ಗೆಲುವ ಬಾಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಿನ್ನಿಂದ ಅರುಣೋದಯ ಈಲತೆ ನೀನೇ ಆ ಈಲತೆ ನೀನೇ ಈ ಸುಮ ನೀನೇ ಈ ಸುಮ ತಂದ ಗಂಧವು ನೀನೇ ಕಲ್ಲಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಳ್ಳಲ್ಲಿ ಮಣ್ಣಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ಗಿರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಗುಹೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ವನದಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ಬಾನಾಡಿ ಕೊರಳಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಪಾಗೆಯೋ ತಂಗಾಳಿ ಸುಳಿದಾಗ ತಂಪಾಗೆಯೋ ತಂಗಾಳಿ ಸುಳಿದಾಗ ತಂಪಾಗೆಯೋ ಹಣ್ಣ ರುಚಿಯಲ್ಲಿಯೋ ಜೇನ ಸಿಹಿಯಲ್ಲಿಯೋ ಹಾಲ ಬೆಳಕಲ್ಲಿಯೋ ರಾತ್ರಿ ಇರುಳಲ್ಲಿಯೋ ಓಂ 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 ನೀನೇ ಇರುವೆ ದೇವಾ ಬಾಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಿನ್ನಿಂದ ಅರುಣೋದಯ. ಆ ಈಶ್ವರ ನೀನೇ, ಈಶ್ವರ ನೀನೇ, ಶಾಶ್ವತ ನೀನೇ, ಎಲ್ಲವೂ ನೀನೇ, ಎಲ್ಲೆಡೆ ನೀನೇ, ಸಂತೋಷ ಕೊಡುವಂಥ ನಗೆಯಲ್ಲಿಯೂ, ಕಂದಂಗೆ ತಾಯಿ ಕೊಡುವ ಮುತ್ತಲ್ಲಿಯೂ, ಹಿತವಾದ ಸಂಗೀತ ಸ್ವರದಲ್ಲಿಯೂ, ಕವಿಯಾಡೋ ಸವಿಯಾದ ಮಾತಲ್ಲಿಯೂ, ಕವಿಯಾಡೋ ಸವಿಯಾದ ಮಾತಲ್ಲಿಯೂ, ಬೆಂಕಿ ಕಿಡಿಯಲ್ಲಿಯೂ, ನೀರ ಹನಿಯಲ್ಲಿಯೂ, ಕಡಲ ಒಡಲಲ್ಲಿಯೂ, ಸಿಡಿವ ಸಿಡಿಲಲ್ಲಿಯೂ, ಓಂ 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 ನೀನಿರುವೆ ದೇವಾ. ಬಾನಲ್ಲಿ ನಿನ್ನಿಂದ ಸೂರ್ಯೋದಯ, ಬಾಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಿನ್ನಿಂದ ಅರುಣೋದಯ, ಬಾನಲ್ಲಿ ನಿನ್ನಿಂದ ಚಂದ್ರೋದಯ, ಆನಂದ ನಿನ್ನಿಂದ ಕರುಣಾಮಯ.
Thank you.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ಮ್ಯಾಮ್. I'm still having the music in the background. Thank you so much for the mesmerizing rendition of this song. Your voice has really brought a lot of joy and cheer to all of us. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
The next section is by Mr. Navaneet Galagali. He is a software engineer by profession and a literature enthusiast by passion. He shares videos on Sanskrit and Kannada literature under the handle Rasa Ganga on social media platforms like YouTube and Facebook. Sri Navaneet's talk will showcase Shiva's multifaceted nature and personality with illustrative verses from Sanskrit literature, drawing primarily from Kalidasa's Kumara Sambhava. Mr. Navaneet, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Namasabhaye. Shiva is a curious paradox. He's fierce yet compassionate. He's an ascetic yet a householder. He's Ishvara, the source of all prosperity, and yet he holds a begging bowl. He meditates in stillness, detached from the world. And yet his cosmic dance as Nataraja keeps the universe in motion. He turns Kama into ashes, but then rejuvenates him and becomes Ardhanarishwara, sharing half of his body with his wife. He takes on many roles, seemingly contradictory. And so, no matter what aspect of Shiva we focus on, we can find some corollary within ourselves and our own lives. Because life is not monotone, and neither are our deities. If we can go to the next slide, there's a beautiful verse that shows Shiva's iconography and his equanimity amidst all of it. Bhitirnasti bhujanga pungava vishat pritirna chandramratat nashaucham cha kapaladama lulanat shaucham na gangajalat nodvegashchita bhasmana na cha sukham gauristanalinganat atma ramataya hitahita samaha swasthohara patuvaha. Bhitir nasti bhujanga pungava vishat. He has no fear from the venom of the snake wrapped around him. Pritir na chandramratat. and he has no special attachment to the ambrosia of the crescent moon on his crest. Nashaucham cha kapala dama lulanat. He doesn't feel impure by the garland of skulls that he's holding, waving back and forth. Shaucham na Ganga jalat. And he doesn't feel purified even by the water of the Ganga on his head. Nodvegas chitabhasmana. He isn't disturbed by the ashes of funeral pyres smeared across his body. Nacha sukham gauri stanalinganat. And he isn't carried away by the passionate embrace of Gauri, his wife. Atma ramataya hita hita samaha. He is blissful from within and remains balanced with all things, pleasant and unpleasant. Hita hita samaha. Swastho haraf patuvaha. Shiva is a symbol of equanimity. He's fiercely independent and inward focused, but he's also gentle and soft-hearted. If we go to the next slide, when we come to Shiva as a personality, I think this has been beautifully brought out by Kalidasa in his Kumara Sambhava. It's a phenomenal work, and so I'd like to take you through that narrative and see how Kalidasa builds up this magnificent portrait of Shiva as a personality. So as you all know, Shiva was married to Sati. After the death of Sati, he remained celibate, avoiding contact with anyone. Tada prabhrityeva vimukta sangaha patif pashunam aparigraho bhut. Aparigraho bhut. He didn't remarry. He just retreated to some corner of the Himalayas and began his tapas. Tatragnimadhaya samit samidham swameva murtyantaramashtamurtihi swayam vidhata tapasah phalanam kenapi kamena tapaschachara. Tatragnimadhaya samit samidham. Kindling the fire there, he begins his tapas. But he himself is Ishvara, the source of all prosperity. And yet for some unknown reason, he himself is conducting tapas. He's the one who grants boons for other people's tapas. So what could he possibly want that he couldn't give himself? Kenapi kamena tapaschachara. Out of some desire, some unknown desire, he's conducting tapas. Kalidasa is hinting here that there's some void that Shiva is trying to fill ever since Sati passed away. And Narada Rishi understands this, so he tells Himavan to send his daughter to do Shiva's seva. So Parvati goes with some attendants to do Shiva's seva, and even though she might be a distraction to his tapas, he agrees, because he's confident that external phenomena won't disturb his tapas. If we can move to the next slide. Vikara hetau sati vikriyante yesham na chetamsi ta eva dhiraha. This is a statement that comes in Kumara Sambhava. Vikara hetau sati. Even when there's a cause for distraction, those whose minds don't get disturbed, they are considered wise. They are considered steady. Vikara hetau sati yesham chetamsi na vikriyante ta eva dhiraha. And Shiva is confident that he's one of those people. And here in the narration, Kalidasa makes us smile, because we all know anyone who's hearing or watching or listening to this story knows how the story ends. And so when we see statements like this, it makes us smile. We feel a sort of gentle sympathy towards Shiva. And when Parvati arrives, she bows down to him. And as she lifts her head, Shiva's mind loses its steadiness for a moment. Harastu kinchit parilupta dhairyaha chandrodayarambha ivamburashihi umamukhe bimbaphaladharoshthe vyaparayamasa vilochanani. Harastu kinchit parilupta dhairyaha. His mind lost its steadiness for a moment. Shiva's mind is compared to the calm, steady surface of the ocean. And just as when the moon rises, it pulls on the surface of that calm ocean. So when Parvati lifted her head is like the rising moon, which pulls on the surface, the calm surface of Shiva's mind. And so Just as the ocean swells, Shiva's mind swelled. It got disturbed by Parvati's moon face. Chandrodayarambha ivamburashihi. Kalidasa so concisely captures all of that imagery. Chandrodayarambhe amburashihi iva. Umamukhe bimba phaladharoshte vyaparayamasa vilochanani. And then he moves his eyes across Parvati's red lower lip, which resembles the bimba fruit. Tondihannu. Umamukhe bimba phaladharoshte vyaparayamasa vilochanani. So Shiva's mind is disturbed by Parvati's physical beauty. But then he immediately returns to his senses and wonders what could have caused this. And he realizes that the culprit is Kama. And so with his third eye, he turns Kama into ashes, which is what we see in this image here. Bhasmavashesham madanam chakara. This is not only a physical burning, but also meant in a metaphorical sense. He's also turning the desire within himself into ashes. He's incinerating it. And then Shiva disappears. And Parvati is left to wonder what went wrong. Because she also had her mind fixed on Shiva. And she thought that she could win him over by her physical beauty. But apparently that wasn't the case. And so Parvati leaves behind her kingdom, and she also undertakes a vigorous tapas. Going to the next slide. After some time, Parvati has been undergoing her tapas. After some time, Shiva visits her in the disguise of an ascetic. And he asks her why she's doing this tapas. And when he finds out that it's in order to marry Shiva, he's inwardly delighted, but he doesn't show it. Aidamevam parihasa ityumam apruchadavyanjita harsha lakshanaha. Harsha lakshanaha, he's happy about it, but he doesn't express it. Avyanjita harsha lakshanaha. He asks her if she's joking. Aidamevam parihasa ityumam. Are you kidding me? And Parvati says, Yathashrutam veda vedam varatvaya. She says, it is as you heard. Tapah kiledam tadavapti sadhanam. The purpose of my tapas is to obtain him, to obtain Shiva. And here, Shiva, in the disguise of an ascetic, he tries to dissuade her from the concept, from her yojana of marrying Shiva. This is the verse. Vapurvirupakshmalakshya janmata digambarattvena niveditam vasu vareshu yad balamrugakshi mrugyate tadasti kim vyastamapi trilochane. Vapurvirupaksham. He said, why would you want to marry Shiva? Vapurvirupaksham. He's known as Virupaksha. He has a third eye on his forehead. Alakshya janmata. And we don't know where he's born from. He doesn't come from a good family. But you're a princess. You come from a royal family. And digambarattvena niveditam vasu. He doesn't wear any clothes. So from that, we know his financial status. He's penniless. He doesn't have any money. So all the things that we look for in an eligible groom, vareshu yad balam mrugakshi mrugyate tadasti kim vyastam api trilochane. All the things we look for. He doesn't look good. He doesn't come from a good family, and he doesn't have any money. I think there's something like that. Yeah. So all the things that we look for in an eligible groom, does Shiva have even one of them? Tadasti kim vyastam api trilochane. If we can move to the next slide. Parvati becomes angry. Her eyes turn red, and she refutes all of his points. And then, at the end, she says, Alam vivadena yathashrutastvaya tathavidhas tavadasheshamastu saha. Alam vivadena, enough arguing. Yathashrutastvaya tathavidhas tavadasheshamastu saha. Let Shiva be exactly as you say. Mamatra bhavaika rasam manasthitam. My mind is fixed on him regardless. And so, going to the next slide, as she gets up to leave, Shiva drops his disguise and with a smile holds her hand. And here, Kalidasa paints some wonderful imagery for us in the verse. Tam vikshya vepathumati sarasanga yashtihi nikshepanaya padamuddhata mudvahanti मार्गाचलव्यतिकराकुलितेव सिन्धुः शैलाधिराजतनया नययो natastho. And so Parvati has her foot lifted off the ground. One foot is lifted off the ground. And as soon as she sees Shiva, she freezes. Tamvikshya vepathumati sarasanga yashti. She's shivering and she's frozen in midair. Nikshepanaya padam uddhatam udvahanti. She's still holding her foot in midair. It was as though a flowing river suddenly encountered a mountain. Margachala vyatikara kuliteva sindhu. Shailadhirajatanaya na yayona tastho. And she neither left nor stayed. She was frozen in midair, just with one foot lifted off the ground. Going to the next slide. And here, Shiva makes his declaration. Adya prabhritya vanatangitavasmi dasaha Kritastapobhiriti vadini chandramaulo. He says, Adya pravriti, henceforth, my lady, tavasmi dasaha, I am yours. Kritastapobhiriti vadini chandramaulo. You have won me by your tapas. And so if we notice, previously when Parvati tried to attract him by her physical beauty alone, Shiva had burned Kama into ashes and disappeared. But now that Parvati has undergone tapas and revealed her inner nature, he comes to her on his own. They go on to get married with the consent of their elders. If we can go to the next slide. And that's when Shiva rejuvenates Kama. Because Kama occurs is desire at the physical level, which has its place, but only when it's conjoined with prema, a deeper underlying love. Tasya numene bhagavan vimanyur vyaparamatmanyapi sayakanam. And so, after they've been married, Shiva rejuvenates Kama, and he allows Kama to fire arrows on him. The same Kama that he had burned into ashes because he had fired arrows, after his marriage, he allows Kama to fire those same arrows at him. Kumara Sambhavam beautifully explores these notions of Kama and Prema, desire and love, and their rightful place in the larger fabric of our lives. It's all woven into the story of Shiva and Parvati. Someone who is firmly against marrying, aparigraha, goes on to surrender himself completely to his partner. Tavasmi dasaha, I am your servant. That's Shiva. If we can move on to the next slide. He lives completely in the moment. He doesn't do halfway measures. When he's meditating, he's completely present in yogic balance. And when he's with his partner, he gives without reserve. Appaya Dikshita puts it very beautifully. Paraspara tapas sampat phalayita parasparo prapancha mata pitaro prancho jaya pati stumaha. Paraspara tapas sampat phalayita parasparo. Shiva and Parvati both underwent tapas. And it was as though they found the fruition of their tapas inside each other. Paraspara tapas sampat phalayita parasparo. Prapancha mata pitaro prancho jaya pati stumaha. They are the mother and father of the world, the Adi Dampati. And so to that Shiva Shakti duo, we convey our respects. Thank you all for allowing me to share this with you. And especially thanks to Panagaweni for being so kind as to invite me into your gathering. Appreciate it. Dhanyawad.
Thank you, Mr. Navaneet. I think this is the best combination, with your illustrative examples and then the literature. It goes so well. I offer my deepest gratitude to you for this enlightening presentation. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. In fact, it has inspired all of us, and the richness of the literature is just awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next program is by Dr. Aniruddh Kulkarni. Dr. Aniruddh is a consultant neurosurgeon in Hubli. Before moving to North Karnataka in 2014, he was working under Dr. Thimappa sir at Narayana Health after he had completed his MCH at NIMHANS, Bangalore. Music is his stress buster and enjoys singing as a hobby. Dr. Aniruddh has chosen Dasarapada, a famous Dasaru called Jagannatha Dasaru. He is a native of Manvi town in Raichur district. He is a notable Haridasa. He has authored numerous well-known devotional songs. And Dr. Aniruddh has chosen this Pampa Pura Nivasa Pramatharesha. Now, Mr. Navaneet was talking about Virupaksha. The Virupaksheshwara is from Hampi. Pampapura is our Hampi. Lord Virupaksha is a unique form of Lord Shiva, which means, somebody with an uneven eye. That uneven eye is the third eye. Of course, we all know what is the third eye power. Power to destroy the evil. Let's hear from Dr. Aniruddh. Over to you, Dr. Aniruddh.
Thank you, Ashwini, for the introduction. Namaste to all. Pampapura Nivasa Pramatharesha Mam Pahi Pahi Tripurari Trinetra Mam Pahi Pahi Tripurari Trinetra Pampapura Nivasa Pramatharesha कैलास सद्मचिति चैलभूषण मनो मैलिगेय परिहरिसो नीलकंठ ಕಾಲ ಕಾಲಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಲನಿಯಾಮಕನ ಲೀಲೆಗಳ ತುತಿಪುದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾಲಿಗೆಗೆ ಕೊಡೋ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಪಂಪಾಪುರ ನಿವಾಸ ಪ್ರಮಥರೇಶ ಪಾರ್ವತಿ ರಮಣನಿ ಮೋಹಶಾಸ್ತ್ರವ ರಚಿಸಿ ಶಾರ್ವರೀಚರರ ಮೋಹಿಸಿದೆ ಹಿಂದೆ ದುರ್ವಾಸ ಶುಕ ವ್ಯಾಧ ಜೈಗೀಶ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಔರ್ವರಿಯ ಪರಿಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಹರಿಯ ಮೆಚ್ಚಿಸಿದೆ ಔರ್ವರಿಯ ಪರಿಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಹರಿಯ ಮೆಚ್ಚಿಸಿದೆ ಪಂಪಾಪುರ ನಿವಾಸ ಪ್ರಮಥರೇಶ ಸುರನದೀಧರ ನಿನ್ನ ಚರಿತೆಗಳ ವರ್ಣಿಸಲು ಸುರನದೀಧರ ನಿನ್ನ ಚರಿತೆಗಳ ವರ್ಣಿಸಲು ಸುಮನ ಸಾಧ್ಯರಿಗೆ ಅಸದಳ ಸ್ಮರಣ ಪಿತ ಶ್ರೀ ಜಗನ್ನಾಥ ವಿಠಲನ ಪದ ಬಿಸಜ ಧ್ಯಾನವನಿಯು ಹಸನಾಗಿ ಕಾಯೋ ಬಿಸಜ ಧಾನವನಿಯು ಹಸನಾಗಿ ಕಾಯೋ ಪಂಪಾಪುರ ನಿವಾಸ ಪ್ರಮಥರೇಶ ಮಾಂ ಪಾಹಿ ಪಾಹಿ ತ್ರಿಪುರಾರಿ ತ್ರಿನೇತ್ರ ಮಾಂ ಪಾಹಿ ಪಾಹಿ ತ್ರಿಪುರಾರಿ ತ್ರಿನೇತ್ರ ಪಂಪಾಪುರ ನಿವಾಸ ಪಂಪಾಪುರ ನಿವಾಸ ಪ್ರಮಥರೇಶ. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Aniruddh. I think it was soulful, very devotional singing. Thank you very much for that. Now, the most awaited lecture for the day. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Hegde sir with respect and gratitude. Sir, I request you to share your insightful talk on this auspicious occasion of Shivaratri. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashwini. Coincidentally, I've chosen to speak on the topic of Kumara Sambhava in the greatness of Lord Shiva. Shivam, Shivakaram, Shantam, Shivatmanam, Shivottamam, Shivamarga Pranetaram, Pranatosmi Sadashiva. Shivam means auspicious. What does auspicious means? there is a sense of reverence to everything. And Shiva represents auspiciousness. Shivakaram, the one who creates auspiciousness. Shantam, one who is always peaceful. Shivatmanam, whose core, whose essence, whose Atma is auspicious. Shivottamam, who is the ultimate in auspiciousness. Shivamarga Pranetaram, one who creates the path towards auspiciousness. Pranatosmi, I make my prostration to Sada Shiva, the one who is always auspicious. So let's chant it together once again. Shivam, Shivakaram, Shantam, Shivatmanam, Shivottamam, Shivamarga Pranetaram, Pranatosmi, Sada Shiva. Shivam, the one who's auspicious, one who creates auspiciousness, one who's always peaceful, one who's Shivatmanam, Shivottamam, one who is the best among auspicious, Shivamarga Pranetaram, one who creates the path to auspiciousness, Pranatosmi Sada Shiva. Next one, please. In today's Shivaratri presentation, I will be sharing a few stories. Most of these stories are, because they are from different sources, there will be variations in the stories from different sources. It was nice to listen to Navaneet Galagali. And I will focus less on Shiva because he has spoken more about Shiva, and I will focus more on his most illustrious son, Skanda, Subramanyam, Guha, Kartikeyan, or the different names that we know. All these stories come in Valmiki Ramayana in the Balakanda, Skanda Purana, Kumara Sambhava, very well referred to, or the great work of Kalidasa, and Tripura Rahasya. Tripura Rahasya is all the story about Sanat Kumar. So the story begins by a Rakshasa called Tarakasura. And Tarakasura, because of his austerity, had a boon from Lord Shiva that he could be killed only by a son from Lord Shiva. As already mentioned, because having lost Sati, Shiva had become an ascetic, and he was sure that from an ascetic you're not going to have a son. And also he should be an infant, just 6 or 7 days old, and he cannot be killed by anybody else. And because of this boon, he had become so strong, he had defeated all the Devas. The Devas who are in Swarga, they have Amrita, therefore they cannot be killed, but they can be defeated. And Indra and all of them had been defeated by Tarakasura. Story now. Now, Brahmaji, who had given that boon, now comes to Lord Shiva. Now, unless Shiva agrees to have a child, because he has given the boon and only a Shiva's child can reverse this process, problem of Tarakasura. So Shiva is in meditation, and we heard the story already about how Parvati was around serving Lord Shiva, and unless he agrees to marry Parvati, the future is not going to happen. The Kumara Sambhava is not going to happen. So they all make a plan that they ask Kamadeva to shoot an arrow. But Kamadeva is extremely hesitant because he is frightened of Lord Shiva. But Brahmaji and all the others encourage him to do so. The moment he is stung by this, and Shiva opens his eyes, and when Kama is there, when there is love in the air, there is spring, there is beauty all around, and Shiva suddenly feels something amiss, and his eyes focus on Kamadeva, and Kamadeva is reduced to ashes. And the rest of the story is that his wife requests, he said it's no fault of his that he was, working on behalf of Brahmaji and others. So Shiva agrees to reconsider and also to bring back Kamadeva a little later on. Continue, please. The next slide. Then comes the story of Parvati. Now, as we already heard earlier, initially Shiva is extremely reluctant to accept Parvati, and so Parvati, after this Manmatha, after Madana, Kamadeva has been burnt, she goes into extreme degree of austerity. So much of austerity that was a time that she would be in that cold, in the ice, and she would live only on leaves. Because she was living only on leaves, leaves are called parna. And then she went into the extreme austerity when she gave up leaves also, and therefore she is aparna. By the time when Shiva relents and he looks at this figure of Parvati, who's now reduced to, she's in a very poor nutritional status because she's not been having food anytime. So he calls her Aparna, but Parvati does not respond. Again, he calls her Aparna. Now, the word Aparna has very great significance because it is a moment of transition of the attitude towards Parvati. And then she opens her eyes and she says, my parents have called me Parvati. And then the rest of the story, we know that they accept each other, but the marriage has to take some time. And the marriage of Shiva and Parvati, I will touch upon it a little later, is symbolic of Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikyam. Next slide, please. Then we go to the story of Sanat Kumara. Sanat Kumara is a Manasa Putra of Lord Brahmaji. He is considered a person who, like Vyasa's son, Sukacharya, is born enlightened, who are enlightened beings. And he was so radiant, always in a state of bliss. And it is said when Shiva and Parvati visit Sanat Kumara and they go to his place, and they see him in his meditation, they see him in his blissful state. Now, Shiva and Parvati visiting a particular ashram is like the president of your country visiting your place. But Sanat Kumara was absolutely unmoved. Even if the Parabrahma, Parameshwara and Parvati come, he was unmoved. Shiva was a little upset by it. And then he said to Sanat Kumara, I can curse you. And Sanat Kumara's reaction is, do you want to see what a curse can do to Brahman or Atma? Suddenly Shiva realizes, he says, he retreats and he says, and he says, okay, what boon do you want? He says, for a person who's got everything, tushtaha, atmaneva atmana tushtaha. So Sanat Kumara is like that, a person who is so full of Atma, Atmaneva Atmana Tushta. What can you give for such a person? On the other hand, he says, I can give you a boon if you want something. So immediately Shiva said, I want you to be born as my son. So he considers and he says, yes, I will be born, but I will not be born in a usual manner. I will not enter into the womb, and I will. So you factor it how it will be, how it will happen. So this is the story. The greatness of Sanat Kumara is also seen in the slide that he is the guru in the Chandogya Upanishad, where he is the teacher to his own brother, Narada. And there are some very beautiful verses on what is limitlessness or Bhuma. This is what is called Bhuma Vidya. I thought he was a Chiranjeevi, but he's not considered among the Chiranjeevis. When Dhritarashtra had terrible dreams about the defeat and his possible death, he wakes up Vidura, and there is a lot of discussion between Vidura, and Vidura is a great brother and advisor to Dhritarashtra. But when he asks him questions about death, he says, let me invoke Sanat Kumara. And Sanat Kumara comes, and there is a discussion. It is considered one of the only 3 parts of Mahabharata where Adi Shankara has given his commentary. Adi Shankara has given his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. Adi Shankara was given the Vishnu Sahasranama by his guru to write comments on. And the third was the Sanat Sujatiya, which is a document about death. So in Sanat Sujatiya, again, Sanat Kumara comes. Next one, please. So now Sanat Kumara has to be born as the Kumara. Now, he's, as I said, next one, please. He says he agrees to be born, but not to be born in the womb. Can we proceed to the next slide? So there is a certain process that happens. And okay, all this is very nicely described in Kumara Sambhava by Kalidasa. Kalidasa initially was a very ordinary mortal like any one of us, but then he was blessed by goddess Kali and he was transformed. And it is said one of his greatest composition is Kumara Sambhava. Kumara Sambhava is again focused on the birth of Kartikeyan. Continue, please, the next slide. And so again, this same story. Now, how he was born. So he was born in a very unconventional manner. That means Shiva's seed was transported by Agni. And they said even Agni could not carry it. It was handed over to Vayu, from Vayu to Ganga. From Ganga, it fell to a forest nearby called a reed forest called Sharavana. And because he was born from Sharavana, Skanda, which means spurt of life, is called Sharavana Bhava. And because he's from Agni, Agneya, and because Vayu was involved in the process of his birth, he's also called Guha. When the child was born, it was 6 small babies that came. And these 6 babies were nursed by the Kritika constellation. That is why he's also called Kartikeyan. And then Parvati, next slide, please. Parvati takes all these 6 babies and converts them into one child with 6 heads. And that is why he is also called Shanmukha. And as the child grows up to the 6th day, and on the 7th day is this great battle when Skanda is the Senadipati and leads into the battle, and Tarakasura is killed, and the Swarga is retained to Indra, and so on. There are various temples devoted to Lord Subramanya. In Karnataka, there are so many, Kukke Subramanya. But among them all, one of the most famous temples is the Tiruchendur. Next one, please. And if you want to see where is this Tiruchendur, it is on the coast. Next one, keep on proceeding. Next slide, please. It is somewhere between Rameshwaram. Keep on proceeding, Panaga, because unless I see the next slide, I will not. Yeah, in this map, you will see where Rameshwaram, where Kanyakumari is. And this is a projection into the sea. And those of you who have been to this temple, you will see it is on the seashore. And during that great tsunami, this was unharmed. There were no waves that came towards it. And this was predicted by Adi Shankara. Adi Shankara, continue, please. This is the great temple of Tiruchendur, perhaps one of the holiest places for. Continue, please. Just run through the slide and I will tell you when to stop. There are many stories connected to Kartikeyan. And one of the stories, how we got the name of Swaminatha. And how we got this name of Swaminatha was, he was greatly interested about Omkara. And Lord Shiva, when asked about Omkara, he refers him to Lord Brahmaji. Brahmaji is the author of all the Vedas, so he should be able to tell him about Omkara. But he was not happy with the answer that he got. And then finally, Shiva felt that there is something that the little boy Murugan knew about Omkara. And so he asked him, so can you tell me what you know about it? And he says, if I have to tell you, then you have to sit down and I have to be in the position of a teacher. I have to be above you. That is how a teacher always sits one level higher than the student. And now Lord Shiva, who's Asitosh, who has no ego whatsoever, had no problem. But Parvati said that you are the Lord of the universe, and that cannot happen. The only solution was to carry Kartikeyan, and therefore he could hold him in a little higher position, and he told him into his ears. And what he said was, Omkara involves Brahma is A, Vishnu is U, and Shiva's Ma, U, Ma represents that. And then we know the story of how Narada gives both the 2 brothers, Ganesha and Skanda, a competition to see who will go around the world fastest. And he has a peacock as his mount. So Skanda proceeds. And Ganesha has a brilliant idea. He says, the world for me is my father and mother. So he goes around his parents. Now, when Skanda returned, he found that Ganesha had been declared as winner, and that upset him very much. And it is said that I'm not sure if it's this story or something, he refused to stay with his parents and he moved from Kailash down south. His parents, of course, missed him very much, and so they also move from Kailash and they come down south, of course, to Kashi, where they make their residence. And Shanmugam or Murugan is the lord of the southern India, particularly in the region of Tamil Nadu. Please continue. Shanmugam, and the one that has got 6 heads. Please continue, Anaka. So various names. Kumara means who's youthful. Kartikeya, because of the 6 nakshatras who nursed him. Skanda, which means the spurt of life. Agneya, because Agni was involved in the transportation of the seed of Shiva. So next one, please. Guha. Guha actually means the cave, one who dwells in a cave. Also called the name of the wind god, the mysterious one. I spoke to you about Sharavana Bhava, Shanmugam, Senthil, Veil, the spear, Veil Murugan. Proceed. If you want a very beautiful composition on Lord Subramaniam, this is an extempo work by Adi Shankara in Tirchandur, 33 verses in Bhujanga Stotra, as if there is a serpent moving on dry leaves, extolling the greatness of Lord Subramaniam. Next one, please. Now, the significance of Shiva Parvati Kalyanam is almost significant of Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. Now, we heard the story of how Shiva accepts Parvati and then they go to the parents and the Shiva Parvati Kalyanam happens. It is said so many people intended to come there that the earth began to tilt. And to correct the balance, Lord Shiva asked sage Agastya and his followers to go down to the south to correct the tilt in the balance. Please go back. Okay, go to the next slide. And because of that, sage Agastya said, now you are inviting everybody. Why are you not being fair to me? Why are you asking me to go down south? He says, for your sake in Madurai. And there's another beautiful story. I will get married once again. And you will have the same Shiva Parvati Kalyana. And this is a picture in Madurai where Vishnu becomes the one who gives Kanyadan. Next one, please. Here in the form of Meenakshi and Sundareshwara. So this is Agastya Muni. Agastya Muni, having come down south from the Himalayas, now he has to cross the Vindhya mountains. It is said the Vindhya mountains were growing at such a rapid rate, they were obstructing the rays of the sun and the moon. So when they prayed to him, Vindhya, out of great respect for Agastya Muni, began to bow down. And then Agastya Muni tells them, see, until I come back, you remain in the same way. So Agastya Muni is a great pioneer of Siddha, the whole school of Siddha. The Tamil literature has come from Agastya Muni. It is said that Agastya Muni tames Kartikeyan's anger. Kartikeyan felt he was treated unfairly and he was extremely violent with anybody who was unjust. But then at Subramaniam, it is Agastya Muni who tames it and he gives up his weapons. This Agastya Muni's contribution also is the Aditya Hridayam. When Lord Rama was not able to defeat Ravana, he composed the Aditya Hridayam and he said how that could help in all of us to deal with the battle of life. You remember that beautiful prayer, Yakundendra Tushara Hara Dhavala. This is also the contribution of Agastya Muni. Next one, please. Now, this Agastya Muni was come down from the Himalayas. He was sorely missing the Himalayan peaks. And he tells Lord Shiva, can you get me 2 peaks from the Himalayas down south? And therefore, 2 of Shiva's Ganas carry 2 peaks and they bring them down to the south. And as they reached Palani, one of the peaks became so heavy that they had to deposit there. And they looked at it Why was it so heavy? Because on the top of that Palani hills, they saw Kumara or Karthikeyan seated there. And that is why Palani is an important center for uh, Lord Subramaniam. And then the other hill becomes the hill of the Shabarimala hills of Lord Ayappa. Now, both these Kumara and Karthikeyan, Lord Ayappa are considered pure male sons of Lord Shiva. And Lord Ayappa is also considered as Hari Hara Sutta. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you, sir. I offer my heartfelt pranamams to you. Your wisdom, compassion, and guidance inspire us to walk the path of righteousness. And also, let us hope that we all up the ladder in our spiritual growth. Thank you so much, sir. In our final set, we have Srimati Savitha Narahari, who started taking Carnatic classic lessons from the age of 6. She is a humble student of Srimati Anasuya and Srimati Jayashri. She is currently practicing music under the guidance of Sri Narahari Dikshit. She has taken part in various cultural platforms, also has performed at Ravindra Kalakshetra, Kannada Sangha, and other mathas and temples on special occasions. She is here to sing a Bhakti Gite on our Neelakantha. Let us welcome her. Srimati Savitha, please.
Thank you, Ashwini. Namaskara ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ. ನೀಲಕಂಠ ನಿನ್ನಡಿಗೆ ಎನ್ನಯ ನಮನವಯ್ಯ ನಾದ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮನಿನ ನಾಮ ಪಾಡಿನ ಧನ್ಯನಯ್ಯ ನೀಲಕಂಠ ನಿನ್ನಡಿಗೆ ಎನ್ನಯ ನಮನವಯ್ಯ ನಾದ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮನಿನ ನಾಮ ಪಾಡಿನ ಧನ್ಯನಯ್ಯ ನೀಲಕಂಠನೇ ಹೇ ಶಿವನೇ ನೀಲಕಂಠನೇ ಹೇ ಶಿವನೇ ನಟರಾಜ ನಿನ್ನ ನಾಟ್ಯ ನೋಡಿ ನರ್ತಿಸಿದೆ ತನುವು ನಯನತ್ರಯ ನಿನ್ನ ರೂಪ ನೋಡಿ ತಣಿಯಿತು ಈ ನಯನ ನಟರಾಜ ನಿನ್ನ ನಾಟ್ಯ ನೋಡಿ ನರ್ತಿಸಿದೆ ತನುವು ನಯನತ್ರಯ ನಿನ್ನ ರೂಪ ನೋಡಿ ತಣಿಯಿತು ಈ ನಯನ ನಿಶಾಖರನ ಜಟೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಧರಿಸಿರುವ ನೀಲಲೋಹಿತ ನಿಶಾಕರನ ಜಟೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಧರಿಸಿರುವ ನೀಲಲೋಹಿತ ನಿಶಾಖರನ ಜಟೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಧರಿಸಿರುವ ನೀಲಲೋಹಿತ ಹೇ ನೀಲಕಂಠ ನಿನ್ನಡಿಗೆ ಎನ್ನಯ ನಮನವಯ್ಯ ನಾದ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮನಿನ ನಾಮ ಪಾಡಿನ ಧನ್ಯನಯ್ಯ ನೀಲಕಂಠನೇ ಹೇ ಶಿವನೇ ನೀಲಕಂಠನೇ ಹೇ ಶಿವನೇ ನಿಸ್ಸಂಧಿಯಾಗಿ ನಿವೇದಿಸುವೆನ ನಿನ್ನ ಚರಣದಲ್ಲಿ ನಿನ್ನ ಸೇವೆಗೈಯುತ ಅನವರತ ನಾ ಬಾಳುವೆ ಎಂದೆಂದು ನಿಸ್ಸಂಧಿಯಾಗಿ ನಿವೇದಿಸುವೆನ ನಿನ್ನ ಚರಣದಲ್ಲಿ ನಿನ್ನ ಸೇವೆಗೈಯುತ ಅನವರತ ನಾ ಬಾಳುವೆ ಎಂದೆಂದು ನಮನವಿದೋ ಕರುಣಾಮಯ ಶಿವ ಕರುಣಾಮಯ ನಮನವಿದೋ ಕರುಣಾಮಯ ಶಿವ ಕರುಣಾಮಯ ನಮನವಿದೋ ಕರುಣಾಮಯ ಶಿವ ಕರುಣಾಮಯ ಹೇ ನೀಲಕಂಠ ನಿನ್ನಡಿಗೆ ಎನ್ನಯ ನಮನವಯ್ಯ ನಾದ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮನಿನ ನಾಮ ಪಾಡಿನ ಧನ್ಯನಯ್ಯ ನೀಲಕಂಠನೇ हे शिवने नीलकण्ठने हे शिवने नीलकण्ठने हे शिवने. Thank you.
Thank you, Srimati Savitha. Thank you. Your devotion and passion for singing are truly amazing. May your music continue to spread joy and spiritual upliftment.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashwini.
So, as we conclude this special Shivaratri celebration, I offer my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Hegde sir and Mr. Navaneet Galagali for their insightful talks, Sri Ranjit Sharma for the divine chanting, our talented singers Dr. Archana, Dr. Aniruddh and Srimati Savitha for their soulful renditions. May the blessings of Lord Shiva be upon us all, guiding us on our spiritual journeys and filling our lives with love, peace, and harmony. Let us carry the spirit of Shivaratri with us, embracing the values of devotion, surrender, and self realization. Before we conclude, let us all chant Mahamrityunjaya mantra. Mahamrityunjaya mantra, it occurs in Rudra Prashna. So our Swamiji says, if we cannot chant the whole Rudra Prashna, at least Mahamrityunjaya mantra should be repeatedly chanted. If not Mahamrityunjaya mantra, at least the Panchakshari Om Namah Shivaya should be chanted. If not that, at least Shiva. So please join us for the Atma Bodha sessions in our next class. So let us chant Mahamrityunjaya mantra 3 times before we conclude. ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्. हरि ओम. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. Thank you all.